All right. Hello. We are back with another Authors Impact Hub podcast. My name is Juanita Woodson, the host and founder of the Authors Impact Hub. So we've been going pretty strong, right, with our author Q&As all across the United States. I've been interviewing authors, learning a little bit more about their writing journey, future projects they have coming up, and a little bit about their background. So tonight we have the amazing Sydney Scott on. And I'm honored to have Sydney on, right? She was on Moments for Moms too, a project that I am a visionary of. And it was great to see her kind of come out of her shell. This was her first book. But I'm going to pass the floor to you so that you can introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about your background, and you can just state the title of the book again. The floor is all yours.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Juanita. Yes. So again, my name is Sydney Scott. And like Juanita said, I was a part of the Moments for Moms, Volume 2. And it was such an amazing experience. I've always loved writing, and I would just kind of do it as a hobby, and nobody had ever read my work. It was something that I enjoyed doing and I was really shy about. And I kind of lost touch with, throughout the years of like being a mom and working and, life as it is. It was very easy for me to kind of lose touch with that. And so I saw this opportunity as a chance for me to kind of reconnect with my lost love of writing. And it very much did that and then some. I had so much anxiety and fear. And like there were so many times I wanted to, like, I'm going to tell Juanita that I can't do this. And I'm just going to scholarship my investment. It'll be fine. But I was like, too scaredy cat to tell you that I wanted to quit. So I was like, well, we're gonna do it because we can't tell her that we're quitting. So I pushed through it and it was the best thing that I could have done. I'm so proud to be a part of this project and it really did reignite my love for writing and I haven't really stopped since.
Yes, and I love that. That's what I love to hear, right? So, joining a co-author project is a great opportunity for authors who have never written a book. You get to go through the whole publishing process. And then a lot of times authors, they go and they start their own projects after it. So that's one thing that I really enjoy. It kind of like sparks that creativity again, right? So you did mention that you've always had a love for writing. So outside of writing, tell us a little bit more about your background. And we know that you are a mom and you do all the things. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah. I have three daughters, 12, 3, and 1. All girl. I said daughters, so yes, all girls. And before I became a full-time stay-at-home mom almost, I want to say, I think almost 4 or 5 years now. Oh no, 4 years. I've been a stay-at-home mom full time. Prior to that, I was working in senior living and marketing and administration, and then I was working in behavioral health for adolescents. So I've always worked in some kind of human service, which is where I have always found my passion is working with and helping others to some capacity. So it was really, kind of cathartic to do this project that also did the same thing and with my passion included into it. So it was really fun to be a part of.
Okay. So I know you have mentioned previously to me that you are someone that was diagnosed with ADHD, right?
Yeah.
How did that impact your writing moments for moms?
Um, Well, procrastination was definitely a thing. I think I wrote down, I know we had several meetings where we got together where you shared some outlines and topic ideas, and I took notes and I wrote down some ideas that I had. And that was it for a little bit. And then our first deadline was coming up, and I was like, I probably should get to getting. And I did it. I did it all in like one sitting. And that's very much how my ADHD works. But it's like, that's how I have to do it. And like the way that I write with my ADHD too is like I can't write when I'm told I have to write. It has to just like I have to have the words and it has to be very fluid. Otherwise, I'm just like block after block after block or I'll freeze. So it does pose some obstacles for me for sure. But once that gate opens, it's like it just doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going and going. Um, and I was, I got it done. I got everything in on time, and I was able to get things done because deadlines do help me actually with my ADHD. If I know someone's waiting on me for something, I'm like, oh, I don't want to let them down. Let me, kind of get out of my bubble here and get this done. So that's definitely a motivator, but it's difficult. It's difficult with kids. My oldest also has ADHD. My 3-year-old has autism. So there's a lot of external stimulation in my environment at any given time, so it's um that definitely contributes to what I'm able to do with anything really, with the house, with writing, with it's hard. I don't always have a clear head.
Okay. So what would you say then to encourage maybe a mom who's thought about writing and has like the same, because I will be honest, I'm the same way. My
Mhm.
mind, I can have like a million tabs open at one given time, right?
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to someone? And I think I love that analogy that has like all of these tabs, right? You can be pulled from in multiple directions. What would you say to encourage them like, hey, you can do it too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that I would say would just be kind to yourself. Like, having anxiety coupled with your ADHD, or oftentimes depression or people pleasing or whatever it's coupled with, that just kind of like makes it even more intense for you. Um, and I'm saying this to others and as a reminder to myself, is just be kind to yourself and be patient, because it is a lot. And when ideas come, just write them down. And for me, sometimes I can't even get myself to do that. So I will voice record. I'll grab my phone and get the voice recorder, and I'll set it down while I'm like doing something. And I'll just like say the thoughts that are in my mind. And then it's there for whenever I'm ready to go back to it. But I kind of, I meet myself where I am, and it's like if I can't get the words out, I'm not gonna like torture myself and sit in front of my computer like do it, do it, do it. Because it's just like it's an awful experience for me. So it's like, okay, it's not coming to me. I'm kind of throwing some sentences around in my head. Like, oh, I kind of like that intro. Okay, I'll write that down. Like, oh, wait, now I have a couple more sentences. I'm like, all right, it's time. Like, it's coming together in my head. But I find that for me, anytime that I force myself, I'm met with, resistance. So I think for me, one thing that I would say for anyone else that's kind of struggling with something similar is absolutely meet yourself where you are and just take small bites, so if that's like jotting things down as they come up, or like I said, the voice recording, or maybe creating the header of your paper or whatever, just to kind of like, okay, I did a thing toward it, like I put a penny in the bank. I think that that counts, and like we have to make that enough in that moment, because even that for me sometimes is pushing past what my body's telling me not to do. My brain might be ready, my body's like,
I
mm,
get.
mm. No. So even to just like put a header on there, or like create a file and save it, like, okay, we did a thing. Like that was one step toward. Like let that be enough. It's okay. It will get done.
Celebrate the small wins on the journey.
Yeah,
And that looks
exactly.
different for everybody, but I love that. I love the idea to do the voice recorder, and I sometimes encourage people to do that. Um,
Hmm.
record it, but also send it to yourself, right? Because
Yeah,
what if you lose your phone? So send
right.
it to yourself. But that's a great idea, because then when you have that time, you're not in mommy mode and you have some me time to yourself, you can sit down and jot down the thoughts. And you don't have to
Mhm.
remember what you said, it's already recorded. So that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's really helpful.
So you mentioned that you have three daughters, and I've seen your daughters on the camera. They're very beautiful, and you are so in today's time, and even like with writing your own book, it's very empowering, right? The process that you go through to write. And I know you have some other things that you're working on yourself too, right? So what approach do you take when it comes to raising your daughters and encouraging them to do the things that they're afraid to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my children and my own writing as well, and my own life experiences, that is the catalyst of my writing. That's where my writing comes from. I'm currently working on a poetry collection that is truly about my life experiences and my trauma. So I identify as a trauma-informed mother. So which can be really great in some ways, but can also be a hindrance to my kids, without knowing. So one of the things I like to do is like I tend to want to protect and just like I let mommy do it. Let mommy do it. But that's where that's a hindrance versus like let me give you the tools so you know how to do it when it comes up. And that's something that I feel like I was lacking in my youth. Um and, we're really big on boundaries in this house. We use that a lot. We allow space for feelings to be talked about. Like I mentioned, my 3-year-old, she does have autism, and she is verbal, but she can't always tell you exactly what the things are. So if something happens to her, she couldn't tell me exactly. There's like you kind of can piece it together on your own. So boundaries are a really big thing. So, if someone's doing too much, then she'll say, my boundaries, my boundaries. And that's kind of like respect my boundaries. So all my girls know that verbiage. Um, and I feel like when you have those tools young, I feel like that is a start of a great foundation to be a strong and self-supplying woman, that doesn't need to search externally for anything. You have all of that intrinsic value that I was lacking growing up. And so that is how I want to raise my girls is to the supply is from within. Anything external is a bonus. Just like water, you're watering yourself, but I'm already the flower. I'm already rooted. Everything that I have to survive is within me. I need the sun and the water, and that's all the external bonuses, but it's about teaching them how to, cultivate those the right way. Don't overwater and not too much sun, right?
Yes, definitely. I love that. I love the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
I think it's so important and to teach them that at a very young age when I think that it's a lost thing sometimes in today's society. We're like super overstimulated in so
Yeah.
many different ways. So like teaching them boundaries, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, so I know you mentioned you're working on like a poetry collection. So when did you first develop like your love for writing poetry?
Um, my love for poetry started in elementary school, with Shel Silverstein's books. He's my favorite poet when I was in school. I loved his poetry and I loved his very simplistic illustrations. And every time we had an assignment to memorize poems, I would always pick his books so much. In fact, my teacher told me I could not use Shel Silverstein books anymore because I overused it. So that's kind of where it started. And so my poems, when I was younger, were all very like rhyming. I like to do a lot of rhyming, like children's type of writing. And I love children's literature to this day for that kind of stuff. I love that flow. So that's where it started. And then I've always had a love for words and language and a fascination with the meaning of words and how we use them and how certain words have certain meanings and how we can, use personification to talk about something and bring it to life. And then as I got older and started to, have more life experiences and started to write again in a different capacity, where I started writing about my own life that was more than just journaling. I remember writing some of like my traumatic experiences in life in like a journaling way where I'm just like recounting the events and I'm like, I don't want to relive this every time I go back and look at my journal, but I want to get this out and I want to be okay to go back and look at this when I do. And so that's when I was like, I'm just going to turn this into poetry.
Wow.
So it's like the emotions are there, but I love being able to turn injury into art,
Yes.
and get something out of it, if nothing else. I don't want to be hurt forever. And so I think, and then I'm able to go back and read it, and it doesn't feel so like, you know, it
Yes.
kind of removes a little bit of the weight that I've had, and it's helped bring me to a point where I can talk about it, without any type of, consequences thereafter.
Right. So it's like therapy, right? So writing has been therapy for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like when words can't writing can, and
Yes,
it's I can talk and I can speak and have a conversation all day long, but the way that I speak is not the way that I write. And we don't really speak poetically, and so
right.
it doesn't do it justice all the time. But what I love about poetry and writing is that, like, you can read something that I wrote and you can apply it to your life how it fits, and I can apply it how it fits, and it's very relative in that way versus a journal entry that's very I, me, my, So I like writing in ways that people can see themselves in it as well. That's very healing for me too.
Yes, and I know when I read your chapter, I was like, I think I remember the message I sent you. I love this, like you're a great writer. And I
Yeah.
think that we don't think about like the trauma or just like how hard it is for somebody to put those feelings on paper. So I'm glad that you were able to share your personal experiences because there's somebody else out there who have maybe faced, if not the same thing, something similar, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So what
absolutely.
would you say to somebody who's having a hard time writing about their personal experiences? What advice would you give to them?
Um, I would say to yeah, exactly that. Like someone needs it. My something that kind of keeps me going that I tell myself is like if I know I have a gift or a story to tell, to keep it to myself is selfish. Like someone needs this. Somebody needs to hear this from me. Whoever they are, I may not know them, maybe I do, but someone is where I once was that and when I remember being in that dark place, that deep hole of depression or whatever it was, like wishing for some kind of something, some kind of a lifeline, and I didn't have one. So it's like if my story can do that for someone when I know what those pits feel like, write your story, and you also get it out. So it's like it works twofold. It's like you're giving someone a lifeline, someone who is like starving for someone to just like see them and what they're going through and understand. And then it doesn't have to like live within you anymore either. It kind of just takes a little, I mean, it never goes away, but it does lift. It takes a little bit of the weight off. At least it did for me. So it's like if you're really thinking about writing your story, don't censor it. Don't do the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. Put all of the details in it, paint the picture because that's real. The perfect picture, the white picket fence, like it's all nice in theory, but that ain't it for the majority of us. So it's like paint the picture, give the details, get gritty, because somebody needs it. Someone is dying to identify with you. And to keep that from someone, just remember how you felt when you were in that place, when you were praying and wishing and hoping every day that just one person knew. When you can be that for someone, do it. Absolutely do
Yes,
that.
definitely. Your purpose is not just for you.
Mhm.
It's for people that you probably have never seen before. Maybe you'll never meet them, but if you've been gifted with being able to write and write in a creative way where you tell your story, it's definitely not for you because it's not easy. It's definitely not easy to put your personal feelings, have to relive it, like you said. And it's like, oh, not only am I going to put it on paper, I'm going to publish this.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
what was that feeling like when you going through the process and becoming a published author, sharing, a little piece of your life with the world? What was that feeling like for you?
It was terrifying. When I finished my chapter, the first draft of it, and sent it to you, my stomach was in a knot. And I was just like terrified of what you would say. Not that I was gonna like, this is garbage. What is this? But it's just like, you have those thoughts like, oh my gosh, the rejection's coming, or whatever it is. And then I saw your email and I'm like, oh, she loved it. Okay, okay. I'm like, well, this is what she does. This is what Juanita does. So, she's telling the truth. She's not just saying it to be nice to me, kind of a thing. And once I got that from you, I um I was like, okay, maybe I'm not as maybe I got something. Maybe I can write. And once it was published and I shared it and I let some friends read it, they're like, "This is really good." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
thank you." But from there, I started sharing my poetry, which I had never done, and 'cause it's very personal. Um, and people were just like taken aback by it. And I was in this writing group. I started going to this writing group after doing the Moments for Moms because I just like, I need more. I wanted to keep going. And I had read some of my first pieces in there, and I was just met with so much love and support that I was just like, oh my God, I didn't even know, like, Sydney, the way that you use your words and the way that you paint a picture and your wordsmith, I'm like, me?
Yes.
I just never, I've always played myself very small. Because that's just what I've been used to growing up. So to be celebrated for something that I really love, like I can't even really express what
Yeah.
that has done. But if it wasn't for the Moments for Mom project, I wouldn't have had all the rest of the stuff that followed. Like it really helped me step out of my comfort zone, and it really helped me step into my ability. So kind of going back to what I would say to anyone who's thinking about it, step out because you don't know what will unlock and open up once you do that for you, because it changed so much for me, just in how I show up and how I feel about my craft. And I'm able to better acknowledge myself as a writer. It took me a moment to even be able to call myself an author. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not.
But you are, yes.
Right. I just like I played it small, and so but all of this as a collective really helped me take ownership over what I am capable of.
Yes, definitely. I love that. I'm inspired and I'm motivated by that, right? So my purpose is not just for me. So sometimes it is to like pull people out of those shells, out of their comfort zone. Like you have it, you can do it. And then now you've gone to a writing class, you're working on your poetry. So I'm super inspired, but also motivated, right? It motivates me. Just hearing your story, your testimony motivates me to keep showing up myself, right? To keep showing up for you and for others, because I know that it may just be one chapter, but it's a whole book that's coming from you, right? So in that book, it was just one chapter, but there's so much more that's coming from it. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you for saying yes and joining the project and sharing your testimony with us. So I have a few last questions before
Sure.
we wrap up. So I do want you to let us know, how can we connect with you on social media? And
Yeah.
also, if you can just let us know when we can be on the lookout for for new projects. I feel like I'm putting you on the spot with that.
That's okay. I need to push sometimes.
So I'll let you answer those questions first.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I recently started an Instagram page for my writing. And that the handle for that is Write the Book Sid. That's kind of every time I read it, it's kind of telling me what to do because I need the
Yes.
push. So that's my Instagram that anyone is welcome to follow, that I will be, posting more to. And I would love to have this collection completed by early next year if I can. That would be my goal. Um, yeah, I would love to do that. That would be a really huge accomplishment for me to publish that.
Yes, definitely. Well, we are rooting for you and here to support you in
Yeah.
that goal of having your poetry published. So I always end the show, right, with one last question. And that question is, how do you want your book, your author brand to make an impact on the world?
Hmm. I I'm really big on perspective. I'm really big on reflection. I'm really big on repurposing and rebranding things, and, not allowing the words to to define all the things that we've gone through in life. And so, as an author, I think that's how I would like to be known, as someone who's human, someone who like is talking to you. I want whoever reads my work to feel like I'm speaking to them, because that's how I write. I want it to be like you hear me, and we're having a conversation, but not just a conversation. I hear you. I'm with you. I am you. We've been through it together. I got out of it. Like I've gone through some pretty heavy things in my life. And if I can survive the things that I absolutely had every right not to, then hear me, and you can too. You absolutely can too. There was a point in my life when I didn't think I would ever have my children and the life that I have now, and I do. And sometimes life gets so hard we kind of forget to stop and look around
Mm.
at everything that we have manifested and created and set out to have. So I think that it's so important to kind of take a moment of pause and reflect and unpack. So as a writer and with this collection that I'm working on, that's my hope. Aside from relatability and feeling like you're being seen and heard, is that it also offers you a chance to unpack and reflect on your own inner everything. So I just would like to be seen as someone who is human and not so, sometimes you think of authors like, someone that you'll never touch or see. Like, I don't ever want to feel untouchable or unreachable. Like, I want to feel as grounded as I feel, even in my writing.
Yes, definitely. I love that. And I've told you before, and I'm just going to say it again. Sydney, her voice may be quiet, but her words have impact, right? Your words really
Mm.
matter. So I love to see you like showing up and shining with your words. Listeners, make sure that you connect with Sydney, follow her on Instagram, order a copy of Moments for Moms from her so she can sign it, send it out to you, and you can learn a little bit more about her journey. And then we are, like I said, we're going to be rooting for you top of the year, next year, 2025, to be able to hold your book of poetry in our hands. So I
Yes.
definitely appreciate you joining tonight.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Juanita. This was such an honor and a pleasure. I love speaking with you. You inspire me every time we connect, and I think so highly of you and all the things that you're doing for authors and women all around. I really admire and respect the community that you're creating. You are a mighty woman, and I'm just grateful that we've connected. And I feel honored to know you. And thank you for having me here. It means a lot. I'm really happy to be a part of this.
Yes, definitely. And likewise, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment. Leave a comment for our episode and then share it with somebody that you know who may need to be inspired by Sydney's story. And stay tuned for the next episode on the Authors Impact Hub podcast. Take care. Bye.